Reef and the Importance of Conservation by myself, Roland Molina,
and Adam Baumstark.
of San Diego Mesa College, fall 2019. So, what is the Great Barrier Reef? It's an extremely ancient length of living coral growing on dead coral located along the coast of Queensland and Australia. It's approximately 135,000 square miles and 1,250 miles long, which is about half the size of Texas. The reef consists of some 2,100 individual reefs and some 800 fringing reefs, which are formed around islands or bordering coastlines.
The reef runs along the northeast side of Australia. Notice all the small towns on the water located against the reef.
So, how was it formed? It's estimated that it was formed approximately 20,000 years ago, formed on a continental shelf when the sea level was about 120 meters lower than it is today. Corals began to form at the base of giant underwater mountains as the sea level rose, so did the coral reefs until they were completely submerged, leaving behind a barrier reef. The bricks of the reef framework, or what makes up the reef, are formed by calcareous remains of coral polyps and hydrocorals, while the cement that binds all of these things together is formed by coralline algae or bryozoans. Essentially, it's new living corals living off the skeletons of dead corals.
So the Great Barrier Reef hosts more marine diversity than any other reef on this planet. It is known that around 10% of the world's total fish species can be found within the Great Barrier Reef. More than 1,500 different species live on the reef as well. This includes 30 species of whales, dolphins, and porpoises that have been recorded on the Great Barrier Reef as well.
So, the economical importance. The Great Barrier Reef currently contributes an estimated 5.6 billion Australian dollars to the Australian economy. However, this figure is a very low depreciation value for what the barrier reef actually does. In truth, the barrier reef is priceless. Benefits of ecosystem services that coral reefs provide, such as storm protection from tropical storms and erosion protection, and there are nurseries for 25% of all marine animals, which themselves have commercial and existential value.
So there are a couple main threats to the Great Barrier Reef. The first one I'm going to be talking about is climate change. With climate change, we can put stress on our coral reefs. When we put stress on our coral reefs, we get what's called coral bleaching. Coral bleaching comes from stressed corals, and that stressed coral releases algae that it's been holding. Once it releases that algae, that coral is susceptible to diseases and other harmful growths on the coral as well. Our next one is land-based pollution. A lot of land-based pollution comes from soils and fertilizer erosion that is found on the farm banks right outside of the Great Barrier Reef. All this land-based pollution leads directly into the lagoons that are directly connected to the Great Barrier Reef. Land-based pollution and water pollution are adversely related because they both run off into the water and lead out to the Great Barrier Reef.
Conservation efforts. The Great Barrier Reef conservation efforts are mostly being put out by the government of Australia and the state of Queensland. These governments are providing incentives and extension activities to support voluntary adoption of best management practices. Best management practices being ways that they can prevent harm from coming to this reef. Water quality protection efforts. Aims to improve water quality through best management programs, describes steps farmers can take to improve quality. Land pollution efforts. Increase pasture biomass to control hill slope erosion, essentially more grass and more trees to prevent stuff from getting into our waterways.
So as far as community awareness goes, community awareness is one of the most important things with making a change to the Great Barrier Reef. If you ask an Australian, or 4 different Australians I should say, what the main problem with the Great Barrier Reef is, all 4 of them are going to have different answers. So getting the community on the same page about what the real issues are going to be greatly helpful with improving the condition of the reef. Another thing that the government is doing for the community is a lot of the incentives that they have provided with the farmers are incentives that they're going to start releasing to community members as well to hopefully create less pollution towards the Great Barrier Reef.
So in conclusion, The government of Australia and the state of Queensland have enacted legislation and allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to plans that will limit deforestation for grazing, control agriculture, sewage runoff, and better regulate industries such as ore mining and fishing, as well as the ports, roads, and railways used to transport these resources. Communities and organizations have mobilized to educate the public and take actions that prevent future detriment to the ecosystem. Protecting the Great Barrier Reef is vital to ensuring the future success of countless marine organisms, for the priceless economic services that it provides, and for the beauty that future humans should be able to experience. On this slide, you'll see our sources.